Thank you again, Robert and Marlene, for joining us on this call. We're going to be talking about your journey from Mexico to the Maccabiah to the Olympics and afterwards. So I'm going to begin asking the both of you the same questions, and then let's see, as time goes on, evolve the conversation so that we can talk about your impact of the sport and being Jewish and all the above. So Robert, why don't you kick us off and start explaining how you got into swimming, and at what point did you learn that you were, an exceptional athlete that could potentially compete at the highest level?
Wow. I got into swimming when I was a baby. My dad was a fanatic, and I didn't learn how to swim gently. I learned how to swim rough. I had to jump off the 5-meter platform when I was about 2.5 years old in a place called Tehuacan, Puebla. And then at 3 and 4, I hated the water. And at 5, 6, 7, 8, I loved the water. And when I was 8, my dad, we were members of the JCC in Mexico City that most of you on the screen, I think, were able to visit. Hi, Elijah. Didn't see you many days. And I started to swim. With my family, I have to tell you, I never took a plane trip. It was too expensive. And in 1961, about August, September, they had some trials of 10 and unders. And my dad says to the people in the sports center, we've had this little in-house team for a few years now. Why don't we take them to races? And so they took me to do a race in 25 freestyle, a race in 25 backstroke at these trials of Mexico. And I qualified, and I got in the plane to go to San Salvador. And that was my first plane ride in a DC-3. I don't know if you guys will ever jump in one of those planes, but these planes used to kind of walk upwards to go to your seat. And then it stopped about 4 times from Mexico City to San Salvador. But that was the seed that I needed to, if I swim and I swim fast, I make the team. If I make the team, I go on a plane ride. So to me, qualifying for races was a good way to get on a plane because the family couldn't afford to go plane rides. We went by car to Acapulco or to Phoenix or what have you.
And when did
Marlene, how did you get into swimming?
What? I was
I
reading.
need some help.
I
ran out of ideas of how I got into swimming.
Well, when I was 7, I was a gymnastic and I love it. And then my mom decided to move me to swimming because my dad has a hole in the sternum. So the doctor says that for a woman, it's not going to look very nice if I have a hole in my sternum. So if I swim, my back is gonna be stronger. So my mom changed me from gymnastic to swimming in the JCC, in the same JCC that Robert started also. And I hate it. I can tell you the truth. I hate swimming because they took my gymnastic out of me. And at that time you cannot do both. And I was tremendous disappointed. And the coach, it was Robert's sister, that I really appreciate everything that she was my second mom. Robert's sister, Rosie Strauss, was my coach. She made me a swimmer. But the more I was getting rebelled, the more she treated me hard. And I remember I didn't like to go to practice because I didn't know how to swim. I didn't know how to swim butterfly. I didn't know how to swim breaststroke. And my mom was, you have to swim and you have to swim. And the more my mom told me, the more I hate it. And
how old were you?
What? I was
how old were you?
Between 7, 8. And I remember that in front of the swimming pool, it was a big park. And Rosie made us run a lot. And we have to make turns around the park. And I took my leather, big, high heels boots. And I was 8 years old. And I run. And I was expecting that Rosie said, get out of here. We go. And no, the more I was doing this, the more she put me to run. So after 1 week, she teach me how to swim butterfly. And I hate it. I still hate it. And after a week, she took me to a competition. And I remember we didn't have goggles, we didn't have caps, you know, in that time, we're talking 30 something years ago. And I remember I got into the lane and I won, and I love it. This is the switch in my brain when I won my first medal. By the way, it was butterfly, and I didn't know how to, 1 week before, I didn't know how to swim butterfly. So after that, I can thank Rosie that after that, everything goes up, 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 up. And that's the way I start swimming. Now I don't hate it. I love it. But it took me a couple of years to start like swimming.
So Marlene, what was your training routine like when you were getting older and for how you qualified for the Olympics?
It was not nice. It was really, really hard, but I was an advantage. I was very strong, mentally strong, and I didn't like nobody to practice before me. You know that in swimming, you have a lane and you have to go through one side of the lane, coming back through the other side of the lane. And I didn't like that somebody was kicking in front of me. I always want to be the first one. So to be the first one in a lane with a lot of good swimmer, you have to train really hard and you have to be better than them. So we train twice a day, almost every day. I remember I wake up at 4 in the morning. My dad, I have to go and wake up my dad. And then at 4:20, we were in the car. We drive like 45 minutes to the pool. I swim from 5 to 6:30. Then I get ready to go to school. My dad took me directly to school. I remember how much bullying they made me because I always made like chlorine. So when I was walking to the school, it was like Mexican TV program with songs about chlorine, and I hear it, and I'm still hearing the songs. And then I was in the school from 8 to 4. Then my mom picked me up at 4. I eat in the car. Sometimes I eat in the school. My mom sent me from lunch chicken or hamburger, whatever I really need to eat because I didn't have time to go back to my house. So from the car, we went again to practice. We went to practice and we have one physical hour. It was like running, waves, or whatever exercise that Rosie wants to put us. And then it was another 2.5 hours in the water. And then I live 45 minutes away. So I came back to my house around 9:30, and I have to study. Sometimes I didn't sleep because I have homework or a test. So I, after the homework or whatever I have to do, I have to wake up again at 4. So sometimes I didn't even sleep. And this was before I qualified for the Olympics. When I was part of the Olympic team, they put everyone in the Mexican Olympic Committee pool. How you can say the sedum, Robert, in English?
What do you say in English? What do you know how to say in English?
No, the sedum. It's like the Olympic.
The Olympic Sports Training Center.
Okay, the Olympic Sport Training Center, and they hire a German coach. And the only one who can translate the German coach was me because I know Yiddish, and Yiddish and German is kind of similar. So I become really good friend, and that was not good. That was because he made me swim a lot, extras. He wants me to be better, and we practice 3 times a day. And then we have to go to Toluca. That Toluca was the highest sea level from Mexico. And we were practicing with the German team. And it was tough, 3 times a week, 3 times a day, the whole week. We didn't have any day to rest. That was like, you need a day of rest. That was not existing for this German coach. And most of my practice were on butterfly. I was a butterflyer. And So the only good thing about the practice is that I want to win and I want to be better and I want to beat my time. So I was very, very disciplined person until now. And then at that point, I started liking swimming. It took me like 18 years to start liking swimming.
Thanks, Marlene. And Robert, can you elaborate on your training routine and how you qualified for the Olympics?
Well, no, that's too late. I want to go sooner because after the 61 games, when I gave the mic to Marlene, I had great years in swimming. My dad took me out of the JCC and took me to a place called Baños Granada, where great champions of Mexico were being made under the tutelage of Coach Jorge Villegas Veitia, who I think coached Marlene along the way also at the JCC, besides my sister. When I took myself out of the screen, it was because Marlene was going to talk about my sister. It makes me cry every once in a while. She passed away 2006. Anyway, 62, 63, 64, I made every trip the team could make. 65, I was like one of the best in Mexico. And then already you start dreaming of the Olympics. And early 66, I was the best, like 13, 14 swimmer in Mexico and top 10 in the world in 400 freestyle. And they invited me to the Olympic Training Center to train with the likes of Guillermo Echevarria, who broke the world record in 1968 in the 1500 meters freestyle. Needless to say, that was another great seed they planted in my brain, training with these guys that, you know, are like the best. And I did a trip to a training camp in 67 to Huastepec, where I'm sure Marlene must have trained on occasion. And we used to do those 3-week camps in those days with Ron Johnson, who was the coach at Arizona State University after he left the national team of Mexico, and who passed away already, may he rest in peace. Same as Coach Villegas Veitia, may he rest in peace. And I get hepatitis after the 67 trip, and I can't make the Pan Am Games. And of course, I'm in bed now for 8 weeks. And then 8 months I can't train, but I got the best job at the Olympics in 68. I got the job to be part of award ceremony personnel. So my job was to take the 3 winners out of the pool to the press room, take time, and bring them back to the march with the ladies with the medals, you know. I had more pins than my jacket could fit. I weighed more because of the pins on my jacket than when I weighed in those days. And so the Olympics in Mexico was like, you know, after the disease of hepatitis, it was like, I'm never going to swim again. But after those Olympics, and my coach at the JCC is calling me, you got to come back. You did so well, barim bara boomba. And so 67, I went back. I didn't train, right? 68, I went back. 69, I swam at the Jewish Sports Center again, you know, when I started back 68 and a half or after the Olympics, and through 69, and I made Maccabi games in Israel. And that was the dream of the life, never the Olympics. And I made the dream of the life. I went to the Maccabi games in Israel, won a gold medal. I got a 1500 meter freestyle bronze medal, 400. And guess what? On the way back, I stay in New York. A friend of my aunt takes me to Yale, and Coach Moriarty at the time offers me a scholarship to go to Yale. I go home, I tell my mom, I got this guy in Yale University that offered me a scholarship. I was 17 at the time. And my mom says, Yale Schmale, you ain't leaving your home at 17. And so Yale Schmale, I never went there. And that was great because if I would have never met my Jenny. And I'm in the 45th year of my honeymoon. So that was important. So I went back Mexico. I trained 70. I was the outstanding swimmer of the games and Central American Games in Panama. And after those games in 70, then I qualified to go to nationals in the US. Did great, top 16. Whatever it was. And in January 71, I got my scholarship to go to UM. Ta-da-da, ta-da. So you cut me here, it bleeds orange, and you cut me there, and it bleeds green. And so I did UM, and I became fast enough to become the fastest sprinter in Mexico. In 72 trials, I qualified to go to the Olympics. And it was awesome to train 3 times a day. And I loved going 15, 16, 17K in a day on the triples and 12 on the doubles. And I was with a distance group of Mexican kids that we thought we were good. And, you know, we had a couple guys that did good in those days. So had a scholarship and got married. And I think, you want to know a little bit about swimming Maccabi games? Well, I told you it was 69. I made it again in 73 after the Olympics of 72.
What was your favorite memory?
Over a little bit? Or
Yeah, what was your
story of 72?
Why don't you talk about your favorite memories from competing in Israel at the Maccabiah games?
Favorite memories? There was this guy, Michael Cook, who committed suicide. He graduated Harvard. We thumbed it all over Israel, from Tel Aviv to Rosh Hanikra to Eilat. That was a great memory of Maccabi games of 73. And the races, you know, is like, you know, the medals are in a shoebox somewhere. It's important, the people we met. You won't believe, I have a group of guys. I was in Israel when I went last December a year ago. We were there for a bar mitzvah. And a guy who I competed against in the 400 freestyle, he came up to me at the hotel we stayed, a guy by the name of Moshe Gertl. So if you follow sports in Israel, you see him as a sports commentator. And he takes a medal from some Masters games that he had, and he puts it on my head, and he says, "This gold medal is for you, Robert." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I remember in Maccabi games in 69, your coach protested that you had won the gold, but they gave it to me because I was Israeli and you were Mexican." In those days, we didn't have electronic time system. They did it with a Richter machine. And so he gives me a gold medal. I'm in touch with a guy who lives in New York, the guy that jumped out the window. Do you guys see the movie of the Maccabi, of the Munich Olympics? It starts with a guy knocking on the door, and this guy jumps out the back window, is trying to escape. And then there's shots. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. This guy was Abraham Melamed's story. He lives in New York. And I'm in touch with him all the time. So from 69, I have 3 or 4 friends. My first encounter with Maccabi, by the way, was 66 in Brazil, second Maccabi games. And so in Miami, I've always worked at JCCs. I guess that keeps me in touch with Maccabi. Maybe I'll fill out an application form to come to Israel again next summer if they're still looking for people. If Maccabi games are going to be on time, maybe they move them back because of the pandemic year. I don't know. They did it to the Olympics. Munich Olympics. Munich Olympics had a terrible moment for those of you who remember that.
So Robert, before we get into that, can we talk about your experience at the Olympics, like what it was like living in the Olympic Village, the competition there, the social life? Like, what was your take on participating as an athlete?
You know, getting to that level in any sport, and it doesn't have to be the Olympics. It could be Pan Ams, it could be Maccabi games, it could be Pan Pacs, whichever. When you get to go in a ceremony of inauguration, and these 50, 60, 100,000 people in the stadium around you. And then the show and the fireworks and the trading of pins, or the memories of like I said before, I ride with people that I met in the Olympics from the Brazilian national team. And today with all this Facebook stuff, I don't know that the young guys on the screen like Anna go to Facebook. I think Facebook is for guys that are older like me or Marlene, that finding friends that we saw 50 years ago when we graduated high school. I don't know. Maccabi games and Pan Ams, to get to that level, guys, I wish it for every one of you. But I will tell you, unlike Marlene, I never hated a moment of a yard because there was a goal. You've got to understand. Take your time today, take it to the number of days that are left until your next Maccabi Games or Olympic Games, and divide the number of seconds you need to qualify, or divide it to the number of seconds you need with a winning time or last time, and divide those 4,000, 3,275 days, whatever it is left until. Every workout you do is that little minuscule improvement of time. And if you don't understand how to do the arithmetic, write me and I'll explain it or do it for you. But the number of seconds you want to improve needs to be done over the period of time until your next chance comes. And it can't be a goal, in the space. You gotta work for it. And the work has got to give you the pleasure. When you hurt, I don't know if any of you guys ever trained hard enough that you come into number 6 or number 8 out of 10 and you're gagging already, and coach is on top of you saying, one more time, better than last one. And you push off purple in the face and you finish the swim and you come out and you got to be able to talk to yourself and say, oh, that felt so good, that felt so good, that felt so good. Because that's what it's going to take to get there. Because there's a lot of people going after that spot. It's almost as hard as getting your spot to be a coach of your team in Israel or wherever it is. I think you picked already a guy, the young man from Nevada. Did I see that in one of the writings? The guy that went to Europe last summer?
Yes, but we'll
Awesome.
talk about that later on in the conversation. I just want to focus right now about your time at the Olympics.
Redirecting. Marlene, take over.
Oh, no, Robert.
Take my fish away.
Robert, can you go into, you talked about, what it takes to get there and being there, but for those who don't know, unfortunately, there was a horrific terrorist attack at the Munich Olympics. So can you tell us, where you were at the time of the games, how you heard about it, what life was like during it and afterwards, and being a Jewish athlete, how did you feel after everything happened?
That's a huge question. But I'm going to tell you, I left. I escaped Germany like my parents did, my mom's family in 38 and my dad's family in 36. The assault on the Olympic Village occurred the day after swimming was over. So let's say yesterday, Sunday, swimming is over. And today in the morning, Monday, I had a tour since I arrived in the Olympic Village to go to Dachau. You grow up, you've seen the mass graves and the bulldozers pushing bodies in, and you heard all the atrocities, and we must never forget, and we must always tell the story. And so I went to Dachau, and now I get back to the village at like 1:30, you're 20 years old, and you're just as impressed. The smell in the place was terrible. There's still scalpels and stirrups and operating tables and gas chambers and what have you. And I get back to the village. I find my roommate. I said, let's go to Marienplatz. And so that's a downtown party area. Those of you who've been to Munich, and they're very famous for their beer houses, the Hochbrauhaus for one. And I found a Canadian, a couple of friends from Pan Am Games, and Avram Melamed that I mentioned earlier, who escaped out the back door because he was, the security at the Olympic Village was very lax. One of my girlfriends at the University of Miami came to Munich. I gave her my Team Mexico jacket, and I walked in and out with my card and my picture, and she walked in and out of the village with my jacket. Very lax security. And so, anyway, back into the story of the assault. We go to the Hopra House. We get drunk, as you can imagine, a year, 2 years, 4 years dedicated to making it to the Olympics. I finally went. Now I swam, and now we're party time. We get back to the village, 12, 1 o'clock, and we're like this. And there's helicopters flying about, and there's people running around the place when we get to the ground level going, they're killing all the Jews. They're killing all the Jews. And I'm like, what? And I tell my roommate, I've got to leave. He said, Robert, you're crazy. Get in the room. I said, don't you hear these people? They cooked all the family of my grandparents here. I got to go. I ran to my room. I grabbed whatever dollars I had, a backpack, maybe $30, $40. Took the last bus out of the village, back to the train station in Marienplatz, out of Germany. And I watched the closing ceremony from England. I took a boat train. That's another Iliad of its own. Like, leaving Germany on my own, 20 years old, enough money to buy a sandwich in the boat. No more money when I got to England. I remembered where, again, a friend from Maccabi games in Israel, 69, he stayed with us in 70 in Mexico for the World Soccer Cup. And so in 71, when I competed in World University games in Italy, I traveled to England, to London to visit him, but he's from Maccabi games. And so now I get to London, no money left, but I remember where he lived. I grabbed a Metro Rail pass, and for the whole day, I ran all of London till I got to Golders Green. And God bless, I remembered that long hill to his house. Remember no food since last night on the boat. I get to his place, knock on the door. He doesn't live there anymore. I want to die. It's 4 p.m. 5 goes by, 6 goes by. Of course, it's summer, so it doesn't darken until later. And somebody arrives, and I run to the door, and it's not my friend. He doesn't live there anymore. And so I got his address, another 2.5, 3-hour run. I get to the house where I had to get to about 9 p.m, and God bless, he was there. So I stayed there with him about 3-4 days. He bought my ticket back to Munich, and then I came back with the Mexican national team. And I got back to the village. My coach grabs me in the jacket, and he's picking me up like this, and I'm choking, and I'm on my tippy toes. He was a good, strong man. And I go, Coach, the Palestinians didn't kill me, but you're killing me right now. And that kind of softened the landing. He laughed. The chef de mission laughed, but everybody was very upset with me. And I think at that moment, I did a very crazy thing leaving, but I was not educated different, when the whole German thing happened. I've thought about this so many times, and so many people have asked me about it, and I keep bringing it back. That was not as much fun as training 6 1500s in one session. I think I prefer the 6 1500s in a row, a minute rest in between to drink some water or go to the bathroom if you need to.
Did you personally know any of the members of the Israeli delegation that perished?
Did I what? Did I know any of them?
Yes.
Kind of like from going by the room, I mentioned Avram Melamed. He was there as the coach of Shlomit Nir, who made the finals at the Olympics. And he was walking in and out of the village with her jacket. And so, and she had her picture ID, yeah? And Avram and I kind of hung around together because we knew each other from swimming meets where, besides Maccabi games, we competed because he went to school in West Virginia and I was in Miami, and we used to have dual meets. So just from hanging around him and going into his apartment a little bit is how I saw the other Israeli folks, but I cannot say I was friends with any of them.
And thanks, Robert. I'm sure that was a very, trying time to be a part of. So thank you very much for sharing it. But if you did have to say, one lesson that you learned from competing that you could share with everybody, what would that be?
If I had to share anything that I love to think of myself as, never give up. It could be bad. I think this pandemic has been wonderful for a lot of people, understanding that it's not all about money. It's more all about life and love and friends. And like I said, when you guys are old enough to go to Facebook and find your friends from 40 years ago, high school graduation, then you guys will understand that, or will know, maybe you already do, like Lori or like Lexi. Lexi comes along on her walks. How come you're out of the house, Lexi? You're scaring me. You're scaring me out of the house. Everybody's supposed to be home.
Thanks, Robert.
That's just your film. Hi, Mrs. Kaufman. So nice to see you.
So, Marlene, let's transition back to you. Can you give us, your take on competing at the Olympics? Give us some stories of what it was like to compete there. How did you do there? How did the Mexican team do? What was the Olympic Village life? I'm sure the security was, much different than it was in 72, and any other insights that you want to share about your experience in Seoul.
Well, first of all, I want to say something. We didn't, neither Robert and I, we started and we won. I remember when I was 14, I went to the first Olympic tryouts, and I didn't, in my mind, I didn't expect it to qualify. I was good, but I was not the favorite one. That's why I jumped to the pool with that mentality. And for my bad luck, I was second place for less than a second. So I get out of the pool and I saw my coach, Rossi, and I start crying and crying and crying and say, if I believe in me, I will be able to go to Los Angeles Olympic in '84. And I couldn't stop crying. And she took me and she said, you have to be kidding. If I wrong, Robert, you remember Rossi, she was very impulsive also. And I start fighting with her and she slapped me in my face. And she said, you have to stop crying now because this is the best thing that can happen to you like a swimmer. And I look at her and say, are you nuts? I just lose the Olympic. I'm 14. I lose Los Angeles Olympic for less than a second. And you tell me that that's the best thing that I can get. And she said, yes, because you are immature. You don't believe in yourself. And from now on, you know that you can do it. And from now on, nobody's going to beat you again. And you're going to be ready for 1888. And that was the story. I was ready for 1888. But in 1885, and I put everything in my house, okay? So this is the Maccabi, the symbol of the 12th Maccabi Games in 1985. These were my first Israel Maccabi Games. And nobody in the JCC liked me because I was not swimming for them. It was a point that we were so competitive that the JCC in Mexico in that time kicked us out because they said that the club was social club. They don't care about competitive, and they don't care about winning. They were like a social Jewish JCC. So if we want to go, we are free to go and practice in another place. It was 1985, and Rossi says, I'm leaving. And me and another couple of swimmers, we follow Rossi to another club. It calls Casablanca, that it was real far from our house. And then in 1985, the Maccabi Games in Israel, I was not selected because I was not swimming for the JCC. And Rossi said, hey, you don't have to be selected by a club. You are Jewish. So if you really want to go, let's go to the Mexican Swimming Federation. We're going to prove that you're Jewish, and they need to send a registration form to Israel, and you can compete. The only requirement was that I have to travel with the JCC. And that was a little hard because they don't like me. In that moment, I was already famous. Yes?
Yeah, they liked you. They always liked you. They just
no. They didn't like me. They didn't like me at all in the JCC. Neither me and neither Rossi, Robert. So I went to the Maccabi Games, but I couldn't sleep with the swim team. The swim team made me the ice rule. They didn't talk to me. They didn't like me, but I want to go, and I didn't care. So they proposed that if I want to go, like a punishment, I have to sleep with the track and field. And I say, I'm swimming with the track and field girls. What is the problem? So that was my first experience in Maccabi, and it was great because I find a boyfriend. I didn't need anything. I was 15, and I didn't need any of the swim team because fortunately I was a strong swimmer, and I won one of the 3 persons that won a medal in that Maccabi Games. Even I was not with the swim team. After that, of course, like Robert says, Central American Games, Pan American Games, and I can show you, and I'm ready. All these little things that they give us, kids, that you are in this journey, hold everything, because when you get to my age and you see them again, you have to remember a lot of things. I want to show you, well, that was 1895. And then after the Olympics, I retired. I was done with practices. I need a lot of time for myself. But let's go to the Olympics. When we get out of Mexico, that's really impressive, because you go to the airport and you are famous. You feel like you are the top artist, famous artist on TV. You go to the airport, and fortunately for myself, I like to talk, as you see, and who know me know that I like to. Why are you laughing, Elia? I like to talk. So I have a good relation with the newspapers and TV and a lot of interviewers. So I get to the airport and boom, all the cameras and all the TV and newspaper and want to interview me. And, you know, I was 18. In that age, who don't like be famous? It was like, oh, I'm famous. So the interview, it was great. We flew in a private airplane to Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, they welcomed us with mariachis. So everyone in Los Angeles was like, who are they? And we were with the pants and the big Mexican hats, and everyone was welcome us. It was great. When we get to the village in Seoul, it was kind of different. The security was huge. You have to pass a lot of metal detectors and security, and then after all this security, they check you. You have to carry your luggage, of course. You have to carry everything. You go and you go to make your ID, and then when you go to have your ID, they put all you together, and they're gonna show you the village. The Olympic Village, it was a mini city. Okay, you go inside a huge city with mini village inside. Every village was surrounded for a fence, and it has 4 buildings, 1 building from each country. So my building of Mexico was, I remember, was Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and I don't know who was the 4th one. And then you get out and you have another 4 buildings around, like with a fence with United States, whatever, and Europe. And then in the middle, you have the dining room, but you have like 6, 7 dining room. You have Italian food and Oriental food and Mexican food. And then you have the cinema, you have the disco, and you have little pool and little track and field, but they were just to relax. They were not the competitive. They were out of the village. And something very, very funny, 2 things funny happened to me during the Olympics, and I will show you one. Of course, we are from Mexico. We are not, unfortunately, we were not mentally prepared to compete in this high level. Like here in the United States, that they prepare you mentally and physically. In Mexico, they just prepare you physically, no mentally. So me and my friends, I don't know if you can see, this is a newspaper from 1988 village. They catch us in the shopping mall. Of course, we went shopping, and we have the bad luck that somebody took the picture, and it was in the newspaper in the Olympic Village. So you can see our coaches were not very happy with us, because instead of being concentrated, we were shopping. And then it was in Korea, so we want to get out of the village. So I have a very good friend. She was a swimmer, and we decided to escape. You cannot get out of the village anytime. So you have this little paper with words in English, Spanish, and Korean, and in case you get lost, in case you need something. So it says village, it says Olympic, or whatever it says. and you always have to have somebody behind you to walk with you. So I remembered our bodyguards were Korean girls, this big, teeny, with high heels. So my friend and I, we start walking to the exit, and we saw this little Korean behind us. And then we count 3 and we start running. We need to get lost for this lady and get out of the village. So the point is, we escape, we get out, we went shopping, and we came back. I bought a giant bear. You cannot even imagine the size of the bear. And my friend bought the second size. And we were carried this to the village. Everybody was looking at us like, what happened? And we went into our building, the Mexican building, and I remember the face of my coach, of the chief, of all the delegate person in front of the door waiting for me, and Marisol, it was her name. And they said, you have to go back. You are going back to Mexico. And we say, why? Because it's not allowed to go out. And we say, oh, nobody tell us that. We didn't know. And our coach, the German coach, he started like, I know the face when he started kind of laughing. And I said, listen, I will make an exchange with you. If you let us to stay, I will donate this huge big bear to be the secretary of the Mexican office when somebody came in. So at the end, they accept the offer. So my bear and my friend bear were in the front of the Mexican building, welcome everyone. The problem was taken out of the village when we're coming back, because in Los Angeles, they thought that we have drugs in there. So we almost have to leave the bear there, but finally I got it and I still have it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Marlene, for sharing that. We only have a few more minutes left for our call. I'm going to send everybody right now in the chat. If you can take a few minutes to complete a survey from us to share us your feedback, we really appreciate it. But Robert and Marlene, if you could just finish up with, one final word of advice, lessons learned from competing at the highest level, I think that would be great. So Robert, do you want to kick us off?
I want to give you all the best lesson of my life, perhaps. Just like in the Olympics, when Marlene participated, we already had all the cafeterias and we had the shows, and there was a student union. This particular night is the night before the finals of the medley relay. And, they used to swim prelims one day and finals the next day. So this morning, we qualified for the first time ever our medley relay. I was the freestyle sprinter on that. And we made 8th place. And so that night I'm at student union. The 4 of us are having a good time. I somehow broke off my relay team because after dinner, I went to watch the Russian show. And at like 7 minutes to 9, curfew was 9 o'clock, I started running home. And I mean running. I got there at 9:04 and coach was waiting for me. I was the only one out of my room, and he says, Robert, you're not focused. You're not concentrating. I said, Coach, what do you mean? It's 9:04. We said curfew 9 o'clock and lights out 9:30. But Coach, the lights are on still. You're late. You're not swimming the relay. And at that point, I thought he was joking. You just trained your whole life to make that final, to do something in the Olympics. Guess what? Next day, he hands out the card to go to the pool, and my name was not on the anchor slot, and I didn't get to swim the Olympic final. And it was such a punishment. To tell you the story, I want to cry again, but it was such a good lesson. I didn't see Ron or talk to him for like 10 years. I bumped into him in a clinic, International Coaches Convention, and I hugged him and I kissed him and I said, Ron, thank you. You gave me the worst punishment of my life, but you taught me the best lesson anybody ever could. You're at the Olympics and you got all the little pins and you think you're such a hot dog and and you're really just another person. And so it was such a good lesson. It was a very bitter pill to take, but guys, don't be late. It's important. Thank you for allowing me the extra microphone time.
No problem. Thank you, Robert. And Marlene, do you have any final words?
Yeah. For those who know me from the Pan Am Games, I always said that it took me 50 years to become a member of the American swim team. I always saw the USA people walking during the village in the Olympics, in the Maccabi Games, Pan American, Israeli Games, and I want to be part of them. That was my dream. So last July, as you know, in Mexico, I was part of the team. I wear the sweatbands. Also, I was honored to be the carrier of the banner. So that's not in my plan. That was a really over surprise. Thank you. But what I want to say is it took me 50 years. So in short talk, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take you goals. Nobody can take your goals out of your mind. It can take 1 year, 2 years, 50, 60, 70. I still have goals that I want to achieve. So you have to fight for them. Nobody's going to make them for you. You can have the best coaches, the best teachers, but they are not the one who's going to fight for your goals. So you have to achieve, you have to fight for them. You have to find the right person to be beside you, positive persons, and you always gonna find a way to do it. I'm looking for a lot. I'm looking here a lot of my family from Panama, my kids that I didn't see them. I get a lot of private messages that I'm gonna respond later. Thank you. I miss you guys, and I saw you swimming, and I want you to tell that the best thing is that when you wake up, you can say, I did my best effort. I couldn't do more. So what I did, I'm happy with what I did, and I'm really gonna go forward because I know that it's more to come to me. Okay, so that's it. What I want to say. That always fight for your goals. Okay.
Thank you very much, Marlene. Thank you very much, Robert, for taking the time tonight to share your stories and talk to our community. Really appreciate you and being involved with our organization. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for this evening. Appreciate it. We'll be sending out the call recording shortly, and we also will be collecting the responses for the survey. So please take a chance to submit your feedback when you get a chance. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. I will answer the question later. Bye.